Hello everyone, and let's talk about VR. It seems to be the big thing in 2016 because of course we have three distinct VR devices that are going to launch at least this year, I think. You've got the PlayStation VR, you've got the HTC one, which I can't remember what it's called, and of course you've got the Oculus Rift. All of which the HTC the Valve's one that they're promoting is about what, $700. The Oculus Rift is $600 at the moment, and tends to be the one that's kind of the one that most people certainly talk about. Both of them fairly similar in terms of their sort of specifications and their requirements. The PlayStation VR is, of course, an add-on for the PlayStation 4, which, when we talk about console add-ons, we get bad memories of the Sega 32X and the Mega CD back in the day, back in the 90s. We'll talk a bit about that later on, but let's talk about VR as a gaming concept. Personally, I don't really see it as a gaming thing. I see VR more as an educational thing. I think it would be amazingly good for education. In a gaming sense, I don't see it being the big thing. Imagine an educational sense. Imagine if you're doing, say, a history lesson or something like that. You're doing a history lesson on Rome, ancient Rome. Imagine putting on a VR headset and being able to wander about a sort of historically accurate recreation of ancient Rome. Go to the Colosseum, watch a gladiator fight with things like head tracking and things like that. That would be awesome. That would be so awesome. In VR, I think that'd be amazing. Imagine if a dinosaur type thing. Go to there and see Jurassic Park in VR. That'd be cool. Imagine that, wander about. You could get them at museums. I could see them being a big thing at museums. Pop on the headset, get on the omnidirectional treadmill, and go for a wander about. There you go. Go for a wander about history. And, you could even get famous historical characters explaining things. That would be cool. That would be pretty awesome. The other great use for VR is, of course, things like disaster relief and rescue services. They're pretty interesting. Things like, if you look at the earthquake type disasters, they already do this with robots. What they do is they send them into buildings that have collapsed, or they do this with bomb disposal as well. And you'll have the bomb disposal expert will control the robot just from a screen. But doing that from VR, you get the added perception of depth as well, because if it has head tracking, better head tracking, and technologies like that allow it to be used for those kinds of things. In a gaming sense, what holds it back from gaming, in my opinion, is it's very, very expensive at the moment. It's just too expensive. The technology that exists right now for gaming is just too prohibitive right now. Your PlayStation 4 can barely run games at 1080p. It runs them at 30 FPS at 1080p. The Oculus Rift runs games at 2160 by 1200 resolution at 90 hertz twice. That's two images, one for your left eye, one for your right eye. Okay, two 90 FPS images at 2160 by 1200. That's a lot of rendering to be done by the GPU. We'll get onto the requirements for the Oculus Rift. The minimum system requirements are: you're going to need a Core i5 4590. It's a Haswell Core i5. It's a kind of mid-range Core i5. It is available on Amazon right now. It's £152 for that CPU on Amazon. That is the non-K version, the non-unlocked version. It's 3.3 gigahertz. You can read all about it if you want, but it is a kind of mid-range Core i5. It's a decent CPU, but it is fairly beefy. It says or equivalent. There's no AMD equivalent. I imagine AMD would probably struggle a little bit. Realistically, you're probably going to want at least the model up for it, I would suggest, for gaming. Maybe the 4690K or something like that, or even the newer Skylake 6500. I would suggest, rather than that one. I think the Skylake one does have a performance advantage over the Haswell one. Price-wise, the Skylake one is about £10 more expensive. The 4690K is £176. If you want that. That's the unlocked one. Of course, you can overclock that one. The RAM is going to be 8 plus gigabytes of RAM. I'm going to read that as 16. To be honest with you, 8 plus. The next stage up from 8 is 16. Maybe go 12. Get 2 4 gigs and 2 4 gigs, maybe. But not really. I think you go 16 generally. Well, 4 gigs, saying get 12. From that, I'd say even if 2 4 gigs and 2 8 gigs, that'd be 24 gigs of RAM. So yeah, 8 plus. I'm reading as 16. I assume DDR3. If it's a Haswell Core i5, then you'd have DDR3. DDR4 would probably be preferable with a Skylake build. And the graphics card that you're going to need for the Oculus Rift is a GTX 970 or an R9 290. Fairly beefy cards. Now these cards are designed to do 1080p maxed out. Okay, your 970 and R9 290. That's what they're designed for. However, the Oculus Rift has 3 times the resolution data as... Not resolution data, that's a terrible term. 3 times the shader operations as 1080p. Okay, it's 2160 by 1200 at 90 hertz, not 60. Twice. Okay, you got to do it twice. So it is slightly less than it's slightly less once than 1080p. So the 970 and the R9 290, you're looking at medium settings at least to achieve that. You're going to have to drop a lot of the settings down in order to achieve that. You're also going to need 2 USB 3.0 ports for the Oculus Rift. That is quite an expensive PC. I mean, I looked at a PC build. We might do a PC build for VR, a VR-ready PC build, and see what the minimum cost is. Realistically, I would suggest you're looking at a GTX 980 or preferably a 980 Ti, preferably at that sort of level, and the AMD side, you're looking at an R9 Fury Nano, or a Fury X. I think the Fury series, that's what it was built to do, VR. The AMD R9 Fury series, which has the new HBM memory, which is the replacement of DDR5 as the high bandwidth memory. But yeah, I would suggest that would be a better card. And those cards are really high end. I mean, the 970 is a fairly beefy card. If you've got a 970, you're probably playing most games at 1080p on ultra settings and getting 60 FPS. It's not really, but a Core i5 4590, GTX 970, you know, that's a significant PC investment. That's a decent PC. That is going to run most modern games. You're going to get The Witcher 3 on Ultra. You're going to get, you know, Star Wars Battlefront on Ultra. You're going to get The Division on Ultra settings as well with those kind of specs. So you're going to get modern games at good specs. And you're probably paying around, you know, £700 to £800 maybe $1,000 in the US, $1,000 to $1,200 maybe, around that kind of spec. So in order to get a PC for the Oculus Rift, you're talking, you know, maybe $2,000 plus the $600 for your Oculus Rift, or the $700 for the HTC one, which I can't remember its name. I looked up every name to things, and I got that, and it's like, I can't remember what it's called. Nah, I should go to Steam and just log in and find out what it's called. But no, we'll proceed. I'm just calling it the VR devices, right? They're both very, very similar. Their specs are about the same. So pick whatever VR device you want. I'm not fanboying the Oculus Rift or anything like that. Now, the seemingly cheaper solution to this, to the couple of grand PC option, is of course to go for the PlayStation VR. Now the PlayStation VR price is $400 at the moment. It's priced at $399. However, you are going to need a camera, which is required, which is I think $50. And the PlayStation Move is also going to be required. I imagine will be required probably for most games. I don't imagine that they'll just let you use a DualShock 4, which is another $50 if you don't already own one. Many people don't own one. I don't. I had a PS3 and a PS4. Never bought a PlayStation Move. I've never bought a PlayStation Move. So that's going to be a purchase. So the $500 you're looking at for a PlayStation VR. It does come, it comes with the VR headset. It's going to come with a little box that attaches to it. Again, images of the Mega Drive or Genesis if you're an American. Images of that comes to mind. You remember how ugly that thing looked with the 32X on top of it and the Mega CD add-on. That had two add-ons, that system. So that's what kind of, that's why I don't think it's going to be a good system. All in all, you're looking at, well, how much is a PS4 in the US? About, well, $350. It's £279 in the UK. So you maybe add the $300. I'll say 350. We'll call it 350 for the PS3, PS4 in the US. So 350, 400. So you're looking at about $800. You're looking at about maybe $850. There will be bundles. I mean, there will be VR ready bundles, I imagine, which may give you, be cheaper or include games with that. They probably will do that because they do that right now with the PS4. They always offer you bundles with games, etc. But I don't know the price, the US price of the retail price of a PS4 in the US. I don't live in the US, so why would I know the price of that? The price of a PS4 in the UK is $279.99. Usually comes with a game. I think the Uncharted 4 bundle that's the one. Yeah, that's the one I'm looking at right now. Uncharted 4, $279.99. So I'd imagine that the Uncharted 4 is available for pre-order, should I say. The Uncharted 4 bundle, that's how much that is. So if you want to buy that, there you go. So on the surface of it, I mean, most people already own a PS4, you could say, and most people who are interested in this own a PS4 anyway. The PS4 did, well, it's done over 35 million sales was what they had, was the lifetime sales after Christmas. So I don't know what they are now. We'll say 40 million units shifted worldwide. So there's a lot of PS4s out there. So on the surface, it's positioned quite well for success, although the peripherals for this are going to cost more than the actual console, so to be able to run VR. So that is going to be a thing that puts a lot of people off. The other thing is the game support. Okay, the technology means nothing if it doesn't have a killer app. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing that's going to hold these things back, whether it's going to be a success or a failure. Do they have that killer app? And what I've seen so far, no, not really. They have some really cool things. There's some cool ideas there. Should point out that Motion Controls and Kinect had some cool ideas and cool potential. Never quite lived up to it though. I never wanted to pay for Kinect at the time. I thought, yeah, Kinect looks cool, but I don't have the space for it. I don't really feel like there's any games that really require me to have Kinect. There's no must-own games, and that's why Kinect ultimately failed. So you could see this as another Kinect. We could see this as another CD add-on that was in the 90s. The other problem is, of course, that you fragment the marketplace, especially on PS4. That is the big thing. PlayStation 4 VR games aren't going to play on the regular PS4 that doesn't have the PlayStation VR headset. That is not great. I mean, you could ask Sega. They found out your 32X games didn't play on your Mega Drive. You had to have the 32X add-ons. Your Mega CD games obviously couldn't play in it because you needed the CD add-on because they came on CD, not cartridge. So that was a big factor that kind of held those things back. Yeah, they were better technology, you could argue. CD-based games were kind of shit. I remember Night Trap. Jesus, that was a terrible game. Who remembers that? Give this video a like if you remember Night Trap. That was a funny little game. But the Mega CD was filled with those kind of games. So the games have to be there. They can't just be filled with... and the same with Motion Control more recently. They were just sort of party games that you had with the Motion Control, the Kinect, the Wii, the PlayStation Move. They were all just party-based games. Nobody really made a game that was a real kind of killer app. You could argue Skyward Sword was perhaps one of the best motion controlled games, but that was it, really. Nintendo probably did the best job with motion controls, definitely. And Microsoft, the Kinect was pretty horrible with everything. They integrated it into Mass Effect 3, but it was just voice commands. Essentially, they were just using the microphone on the Kinect. Why can't you just use a regular mic for voice commands? I don't know. Why'd you have to buy £130 peripheral in order to do that? And the PlayStation VR is, it's nearly 4 times the price of a Kinect. Will it deliver that experience? I think it has more potential than Kinect, I should say. It's going to have the more potential, certainly, but whether it can deliver the same kind of experience as well as the Oculus. Because those requirements, I mean, obviously it has the box that you get add-on is going to have I take it, a more beefier GPU as well, and maybe a CPU on board. Maybe having dual GPUs might be the way to go. Certainly SLI, whether it recognizes SLI or Crossfire, I don't know, for the Oculus as well. That's another thing, because obviously using 2 GPUs, you can do 1 GPU for each image, might be a good idea. If it could utilize those two in that sort of way, then it might work for those with SLI builds, certainly. But other than that, I just don't see it. I don't see it being an immediate success, to be honest. I think in 2016, maybe we'll see. Maybe with the next generation, we've got Pascal is coming soon. Polaris, from AMD. Pascal is the next generation NVIDIA hardware. We'll see what that does. Polaris is the AMD's next generation platform. You've also got Zen, which is their CPU as well. So we'll see what these kinds of things. I think the GPU market may make a concerted effort. AMD have their Liquid VR, which is their kind of software technology for VR, and I think that's what the R9 Fury series was aimed at. It certainly wasn't aimed at the 4K gaming market. 4 gigs of HBM RAM, yeah, the HBM RAM is fast, but 4 gigs for 4K is a bit too low, to be honest with you. If you want to do 4K, it's very VRAM intensive 4K. Those texture sizes are huge. It's a lot of pixels it's putting out. So, yeah, so I think that was maybe aimed more at the VR market. Because I think it's all about, the shaders that it can do, shader cores that it has, and the amount of shader operations that it can do per second is really the main thing for VR, rather than the resolution, really. But the Oculus targets 90 FPS, which is a bit prohibitive. I don't know what the PlayStation VR targets, but the fact that it struggles to do 1080p 60 FPS in its current hardware configuration. Obviously, there's going to be hardware that's going to be added to the PS4. That's what that box that you get with your PlayStation VR is going to add hardware. It's probably going to add maybe an extra CPU, maybe an extra graphics processor, maybe even some more VRAM or something like that. Maybe it's the VR unit will do its own thing. One screen will be done with one thing, and one screen will be done with the other, because it is 2 screens. So maybe that's what they're going to do with the PlayStation VR, but who knows? But anyway, it's an interesting to see where the technology goes, but I'm convinced so far by VR. I think it's just prohibitively expensive. I think it has other applications outside of gaming, and I think whoever can tap that non-gaming market first might find more success. Certainly in 2016, maybe they will find success with that. I'd love to see an arcade, actually. I'd love to see like an arcade machine set up where you could go and, pay so much and then play some Oculus games. Play a little bit of Oculus games in an arcade environment. Maybe you just pay for it. You go in to a machine, put the headset on, you get the omnidirectional treadmill, and you could run around and play, Battlefield or something. That'd be kind of cool, actually. They're like a sort of LAN party type thing. I think that'd be a cool idea for VR, but I just don't see it. I mean, obviously all the extras are going to cost you even more money, so it's going to be a device that, yeah, is going to favor the rich, and most people, it's going to be out of reach for most people. And that's why ultimately I think it'll struggle in the gaming market. I think gaming is one of the applications though for VR. I still think there's applications outside of gaming, at least, that can at least, make VR, because VR I don't think is going to go away. I think it's going to be a thing that's going to stick around for a while. And maybe sort of 2019, 2020, when we get the next generation of consoles, your PlayStation 5s and your Xbox, whatever number Microsoft decides to make up next time, the Xbox 27 or something like that. They might be built around the concept of VR, but right now in 2016, I just don't see it being technologically viable, at least for the average consumer. Being viable and affordable. It's certainly viable if you've got the money, but it's being affordable is the biggest thing. But anyway, thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again soon, and goodbye.